librarians. We always like to tell you what the research is. And so there was a wide-scale national research project from Project Information Literacy, and those researchers are actually headquartered here at UW, but they interviewed students at universities across the nation to find out what their research experiences were. They have several, like, 100-page reports, and this is the distillation of many of those. But what they found is that, we all know research is frustrating, and the research environment nowadays is much more complicated than it was back in the old days when I went to school, where most of my research was physically and handily contained in a fairly small library, and I was not expected to do the complicated things that students are nowadays. So they found research frustrating. They didn't know where to begin. They didn't know a lot of guideposts. And so in order to manage that anxiety and expectation, students use, they discover sources at the beginning of their year, of their experience at university, and they use those same sources for the rest of their stay here, even if they are not the best ones. So hey, I used the MLA bibliography, which is about language and literature, successfully in my first English paper. So I'm going to use that for my psychology paper, even though it has nothing to do with psychology. It's because it's what I'm comfortable with, it's what I've discovered. So in order to sort of broaden out their viewpoint a little bit, we're going to ask them in the CoRE project to use sources that actually may stand them in good stead for the rest of their research. There are others that they could use, but ones that, if they do go back to these again and again, they may be ones that they can be more successful in. And most students are risk averse. They like efficiency. They like predictability, and that goes back to I'm going to use these same things again and again. I'm going to use the same research strategies I discovered, even if I could be using other ones that would get me better information. Also, students mentioned the library as refuge again and again, that it's a place where they can go and count on quiet, although maybe not Notaguard, we do have some quiet places, but also count on being sort of in a mindset with others. There's a phenomenon that they call alone together, where you've seen people sort of studying in group tables. They're studying individually, but they're in the presence of other people who are doing the same thing, and so it gets them into that mindset. So one of the things about the CoRE project is we do ask you at some point during the quarter to physically bring your students into a library, to sort of let them get through that first mental barrier of walking into a library, and tell them, we have gate counts and surveys to know this, 90% of the people in every single library on campus, including Suslo, including in the so-called graduate reading room, are undergraduates. So this is an important place, important set of places for them to know about. And then Project Information Literacy is beginning to extend their research out to what happens to students after they graduate and go into the workplace. And they've interviewed employers to say, so how are their research skills stacking up? And the disturbing thing is that students and employers, in a fairly high percentage, both report that they don't feel prepared to do the research and evaluation exercises that they're expected to do in the workplace. And so we're trying to address those skills as well. We have some UW library research as well. This is based on a triennial survey that we do with faculty, grad students, and undergraduate students every 3 years, as the triennial part would imply. And we ask faculty to rate their impressions of students' abilities to do research. And we get a fairly large sample, and so any deviation is significant. And so their ratings of students' ability to develop research topics, to find appropriate sources, to evaluate sources is steadily trending a little bit down. And so one of the reasons we've tinkered a little bit with the CoRE project is to think a little bit more about the skills that students might need in order to be successful in those tasks that we ask faculty to rate them on. Any questions so far? So this is a way of saying that we're trying to address needs that have been identified nationally and specifically on this campus by students themselves and by faculty to give students the skills and the ways of thinking that can make them successful both here at UW and in the workplace. You ready? You want this?